Hello, everybody. Up next is a Fireside Chat session, and for this one, we have two prominent personalities. We have Miss Kiran Majumdar, and joining him in conversation is Dr. Krishna.
Nice to see you, Krishna. And this is a pleasure to have this fireside chat with you at a time when we are all anxiously waiting for vaccines to arrive in India. And as we just heard, several vaccines have now applied for the emergency use authorization, including the one from Bharat Biotech. And I think this obviously spells hope and optimism for this very, very, difficult time that we've gone through in terms of this pandemic. So first and foremost, we are keeping our fingers crossed that our regulatory authorities approve these vaccines, and obviously, we hope that we will have enough quantities of vaccines for a country as large as ours. But maybe I'll start by asking you the question as to how do you look at these multiple vaccines that are being rolled out in the world and the multiple vaccines that will be rolled out in India? What is your best guess in terms of rolling out these vaccines? And of course, we will later on discuss the challenges of vaccine deployment in our country.
Thank you, Kiran. I think, I want to just acknowledge you're the leader of the biotechnology. We're all small babies coming out from this. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you right now in the fireside discussion. I think I want to make it very clear that the Indian vaccine industry, probably one of the best industry probably in the world. Indian industry has done extremely well in the vaccine field, helping the world community. I'll give a simple example. 2 out of 3 children in the entire world are vaccinated with Indian vaccines. And I think that's a proud moment for Indian vaccine industry. That way it's a very, very strategically positioned in Indian vaccine manufacturing. R&D was less, but now R&D is also aggressive. And R&D and manufacturing and distribution, logistics, I think we are very ahead of the game. But now we get recognition because of pandemic. Otherwise, we were doing the same job before also. But I think having a multiple vaccine is always good to the society because we have major issues now. 125 million children birth cohort. Now 7 billion people has to be vaccinated. So the big contrast. So the challenge is going to be how fast we're going to vaccinate this 7 billion population is going to be biggest challenge. And I think different vaccine coming is the best thing for the world because one way or other, one platform might be useful for some people. One platform may be useful for children. Another platform may be useful for the old people. Another platform may be useful for cancer and pregnant ladies, those sort of population. So it's going to be segment-wise, the portfolio. And it's going to be vaccine is going to be personalized vaccines for the community.
And, obviously right now, all these vaccines have been developed at warp speed. So right now, we only have very limited data on safety and efficacy. We don't have any data on durability of response. And we don't have data on long-term side effects, if any. So obviously, as the data becomes known, like you very rightly said, some vaccines will appear better than others. But we would have been sort of in the process of rolling out vaccines, and possibly in a year's time, you'll have some understanding of which vaccines are better, suited for certain populations. What are the vaccines that have a longer durability of response, et cetera, et cetera. So, it must be a very challenging decision-making exercise for any government or any company to really, plan in terms of production or procurement. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a very, very critical question. As a vaccine manufacturers, what we look at is safety is the first foremost important for us as a vaccine industry. So that's one of the reasons why we put inactivated vaccine, which is the old 30 years old technology. We said we know that this Vero cell culture platform technology, inactivated platform, whether injectable polio vaccine or rabies, all are inactivated vaccines. So we said, okay, let's put the inactivated vaccine. We know it's the safest portfolio, and safety is the most important in a pandemic situation. So that we chose that strategy first. The second is, when you ask me, a very important question is durability and how do you sustain the vaccine response. So what we did, some of our strategy was, you have, usually when you have a vaccine, you get IgG response, which is more of a Th2 responses type things. So we took some strategy with the one partnership with US. We made a small adjuvant chemical attached to the aluminum hydroxide gel. So therefore, these aluminum hydroxide gel goes to the lymph node only. So when it goes to lymph node, it shifts the game to Th1 responses, and you have cell-mediated responses. So when you have cell-mediated responses, so you'll have better memory in the cells. You may not get a very high immune response, but then you have memory will be long-term. That's where we assume it, but we have probably a 4 to 4.5 months data available right now. That shows that yes, memory is there in the body. And maybe 20% is dropping from 4-fold to 3-fold, but remaining 80% of the people having a 4-fold high titer. That's a good sign for us. So we look at various angles on this matter, but as the time goes, everybody is going to follow up on the people volunteer who've been vaccinated. We're going to follow up continuously, and we will know as we go along, the data will be coming out. So we take care of the durability also.
So, of course, you've partly answered my next question, which is that, many vaccines have shown a very strong antibody response with high titers of neutralizing antibodies. But some vaccines have shown a weak T cell response, and some vaccines have shown a decent T cell response. And that is where you need the memory T cells to really give you that sort of durability of response. So I assume that what you're saying is that you've got a decent antibody response and a good T cell response, which is why you're saying that you have some optimism in terms of durability of response.
I fully agree on that statement, but I want to tell one point. 5 manufacturers in China are manufacturing the COVID vaccine. Out of 5, 4 are manufacturing inactivated vaccine only.
So and I don't know what the science is. Have they shared any data?
Just for phase 1 accepted in Lancet publication. Just 4 days back, it has been accepted. Probably in another next week, it will be in the public domain, our Lancet publication on clinical data. Our monkey challenge data is probably going to be accepted in Nature on that one, the NIV partnership. So I think we are producing 5 articles coming out, 5 peer-reviewed journal articles coming in international journals as we speak in next 1 week to 2 weeks' time.
And what about the Chinese vaccines? Have they come out and published their data?
They've also published very well, actually. Very good publication.
And what does that data show?
The data also shows not a very high IgG response, not a very high, but they have not talked about anything on T cell responses at all, Th1 response at all. That's something surprising to us. So we took a strategic decision that we need an inactivated vaccine to more shift to Th1. That's why we use that new adjuvant attached to the aluminum hydroxide gel so that we get more of Th1 and the cell-mediated responses.
So, of course, you must have some knowledge about the adenovirus-based vector, the vaccines, the mRNA vaccines, and then you've got your inactivated viral vaccines yourself. How do you sort of look at all these vaccines? Just from your point of view, what do you think are the differences?
I mean, it's a good question. So we have right now 3 different platforms coming into the market. One is inactivated vaccine. Second is mRNA vaccine. Third is adenovirus platform technology. 3 vaccines coming into the market, all getting licensed. So coming about mRNA vaccine, nobody knows yet the long-term impact. How that is going to be useful for children, nobody knows. I'm not going to talk about storage, -70, -20. That's a secondary issue. But more on the safety issues, we don't know yet in the long term. and how durable this immune response is going to be stable. Does it going to prevent the transmission from one person to another person if somebody gets infected even after vaccination? And is he going to spread the disease to others? So how that is going to stop the transmission? These are all the questions going to be raised in a mRNA vaccine platform. Coming to adenovirus platform, the only problem in adenovirus is if you given a 1 or 2 dose vaccine, third dose, can we give it? Which is unlikely. Can we give next year the same vaccine? Which is unlikely, because you're going to produce immune response to the vector itself, to the adenovirus vector itself. And that will neutralize the second dose. And the second dose immune response is going to neutralize the third vector-based vaccine again. So that is one of the problems. But it's shooting a good response, immune response and all that. But adverse reaction is not that good yet. That is also a little bit high, adverse reaction. But otherwise, it's also a good vaccine right now.
So, if you look at it, of course, the world has used many adenovirus-based vaccines. And except that you're saying that, long term, if you are giving it frequently, it will develop resistance to the immune resistance to the vaccine, to the virus, the vector itself. So perhaps the next question would be that if you start with one vaccine, it's good to have multiple vaccines so that in case it doesn't have durability of response, you could perhaps use another vaccine the next time and another vaccine the next time. I mean, that could be another option.
Absolutely.
But now I want to shift gears and ask you another question. So if you do get your vaccine approved in the near term, how many doses per year or per month will you be able to provide, based on your inactivated vaccine?
I need another probably a month or so. Reason is we're adding another 2 more facilities to that. Once we have the 2 more facilities, we'll have clarity probably in another 2 months, 1 month down time. But certainly, inactivated vaccine, we cannot have 500 million or 1,000 million doses capacity. We'll have limited supplies, not less than at least 200 or 300, 400 million doses, 200 to 300 million doses. So we need some more time to exactly figure out the total capacity. But we'll be higher than even Chinese manufacturing capabilities.
So if you were to get it approved, then in January, how many doses would you have?
I don't know. We're working on that. We're working on that right now. And I think press is watching too. So if I say something tomorrow,
I fully understand.
Right.
I fully understand.
Right.
And do you think your pricing will be as competitive as the other vaccines?
I mean, if India cannot sell at a low price, I think India is the lowest in the world in pricing. I'll give you a good example of rotavirus vaccine. When US people pays $85 for a dose vaccine for GSK and Merck vaccine in US, and the same quality, please underline my statement, same quality, WHO pre-qualified, same standards like US FDA standards, and same vaccine we sell dollar dose in India. And we supply Latin America and African countries, same quality.
Amazing. That is really commendable. Now, let's now move to vaccine deployment. As you know, India has done a great job of planning, preparedness planning for vaccines deployment. The Ministry of Health has actually come up with an electronic tag, a digital tag for every vaccine that is going to be delivered. And they have also, indicated there will be probably 100,000 trained vaccinators across the country, and that they are trying to map out the cold chain logistics. Even though this does not require ultra cold chain, you still require cold chains. And I think this is an area where both the public and private cold chain logistics is going to come together to deliver all these vaccines across the country. What do you think are the biggest challenges that we have in a country like ours for vaccine deployment, especially in rural India? I know that urban India will not have such a challenge because we've got medical facilities, we've got infrastructure, we've got the human resources to vaccinate. But how do we deal with this in the rural setting?
No, I mean, India is not bad as compared to other countries in terms of delivery to the thing. I'll give a good example. Look at polio. We eradicated 10 years back. Would not have been achieved, had villages been not been vaccinated, entire rural community. They went to the bus stand, they went to railway station, every child was vaccinated in that game. So India has done tremendous job and phenomenal job in terms of vaccinating reaching to Manipur, to Nagaland, everywhere. And also, as a manufacturers, what we plan is how do you deliver to the remotest place with a small cold space? So we come out of the multi-dose vaccine, whereas US and Europe is not used to the multi-dose. They're all used to single-dose vaccine, pre-filled syringe, and single-dose vaccines. We come with the 10-dose, 20-dose vaccines. And for example, rotavirus vaccine, a single-dose vaccine of Merck equal to 10-dose vaccine, same while, same space, occupying, I think 10-dose vaccine I deliver. And so 10 times more efficient in cold space utilization. And also delivery to the villages is also more efficient because you can take 2 vials and give 20 people vaccination in the village. We've done all those strategies well positioned in that.
Yeah, of course, the big difference between the polio vaccine and this is that the polio vaccine is an oral drop, whereas here it is an intramuscular injection. And that too, it is to be given 1 month apart or roughly 3 or 4 weeks apart. And of course, it's an adult vaccination program that has never been undertaken at such a scale. So I think that's what makes it challenging because there's no doubt about it that the polio immunization program has been an outstanding success by any comparison. But the point is, it is taken over time. Like we didn't have to do it in a few months. We took several years to deploy those vaccines. And it was done on a much smaller population size because it was done on children largely. And it was, as I said, oral vaccination. And therefore, you could train, health workers to deliver that. But today, you need professional medical personnel like, doctors and nurses to actually deliver those vaccines. So it's a much bigger challenge, right?
Right.
So that's I think that needs to be put into perspective. But nevertheless, I think one thing which we are very good at is to rise to a challenge, and at a time of crisis, we seem to deliver very high. So let's hope that this is what will happen in this particular program.
I think I just want to answer one question in that. We are concerned about 1.3 billion population of Indians. 2-dose injections is 2.6 billion syringes and needles are going to be used. So see the environmental pollution that is going to create out of this, in addition to the vaccinating, vaccinators, all those issues. So I think that's how we come out as a manufacturers as innovative way. Can we do this like rotavirus vaccine? We brought 5-drop concept. We brought the polio 2-drop concept. And can we do 2 drops with the COVID vaccine? So we partnered with the Washington University, coming out of the nasal delivery vaccine, which is entering into phase 1, 2 probably next month. And that you just put 1 drop here, 1 drop here, and you're done with the vaccination. And we can put 20 doses in a vial. And we're also looking at it, if you put the dropper, you don't want to cross-contaminate with another individual. We are putting a separate, another tips on that so that you can dispose the small tip out, so that you don't cross-contaminate between the 2 individuals. So we're working out all those things. We worked out all those strategies. So can we do 500 million people with a single dose vaccine, and can we reach fast with a nasal drop? So that's the strategy we're working on, and I think we'll have results soon on that.
So how soon do you think that vaccine will take to?
I think it will enter the phase 1 because it's going to be a single dose vaccine. Your clinical trial process also going to be faster.
Great. So since this is a tie event, the question I also want to ask you is, what do you think are the opportunities for young entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs at this time for developing many types of innovative programs based on digital technologies, biotechnology? What do you think are the opportunities?
I mean, they have the major key player can play with manufacturers, actually, to be frank with you. As you talk about the Indian government is talking about digitalization. Can we introduce the digitalization when we export this vaccine to African country, Latin American market? Can we integrate along with our vaccine? Put that thing, give it to the government. That will be a wonderful strategy if anybody can help us on those matter. Second is packaging. Is there anything novel packaging material that can be developed?
Yeah, temperature tracking.
Temperature tagging is important. And then how do you make IoTs, all those accessible to the distribution and logistics point of view, and prevent the counterfeit vaccines in the strategies where IT can help us on this matter. And even have a biodegradable plastics which can be used in the package material that can be not destroyed. When you have 7 billion population is going to be vaccinated, so much of dust and junk is going to be accumulated in the environment. I think can we avoid those sort of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are lots of opportunities for entrepreneurs to think of,
Yes.
Whether it is digital tags, whether it is, temperature logging software.
Absolutely.
It is new, even devices. They can look at, whether we can come up with smart syringes.
Right.
I know that many of us look at, the pollution caused by, needles, needle injury and
Absolutely.
with needles are always very polluting. And can we have retractable kind of syringes, or how do we deal with all these things? There are lots of those opportunities that are available for young people to ideate and develop.
That's a good point.
The other point I wanted to say was that this has put the spotlight on biotechnology in a big way. For a long time, people didn't really understand biotechnology, and they didn't even bother about biotechnology. And I remember this was a sector that used to always be hungry for funding. And it was difficult to convince venture funds to invest in biotech in a big way. But in the recent few months, I can tell you that there's been a lot of interest in funding vaccine companies, other biotech companies, and suddenly I think there's a lot of interest generated in this sector. So what would your message be to young scientists who are looking at starting up companies in biotech?
As you said, you are a leader, you know it exactly what you've gone through that. Not an easy task. It's a long gestation projects. See, biotech, if somebody is aspiring, like IT, can we have revenue in 1 year, 2 years? It's not going to happen in the biotech. So it's a long gestation period. And that's why you look at vaccine manufacturers, only 2 manufacturers in US, Merck and, Pfizer. You come to Europe, only GSK and Sanofi. So the long gestation, each vaccine, it takes 15 years for us to do all the clinical development and come into the market. So I always say in vaccine field, I work for my grandson, not even for me, not my son. I work for my grandson. So that's a long gestation of the projects are. I think it's a time when I was a Carnegie Mellon organized a meeting right in Bangalore. You gave a keynote speech in January, February, I think, in Bangalore. When I talked about the pandemic, I asked a simple question to them. If any pandemic, that is in last year, November, I think, exactly 1 year back. So you gave a keynote speech in Bangalore, the Leela Palace Hotel. I told all IT people, just imagine a pandemic comes to Bangalore. How many people will work in the company, or how many people will stay in Bangalore city? I asked the same question last year, but nobody took it very seriously. Now I think they'll take it seriously, what I say.
Yeah, and let's hope that with the new approach to regulatory speed of development, we will see vaccines coming at a faster rate in the future as we gain more confidence. But Krishna, I've been told that we've come to the end of our fireside chat. So thank you so much. I think it's been a pleasure talking to you. And of course, we are old friends. So it was actually having a nice conversation. So thank you.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you.